Thank you so much for joining us this evening. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Megan Hunter-Gauthier, and I am the assistant curator at Two Rivers Gallery, and I'm here with Troy Lindstrom, the artist whose work is featured in Positive Practice, Acts of Kindness, and Creating with Disability. So I would like to start by acknowledging that I'm speaking to you from the traditional territory of the Lheidli T'enneh, where Two Rivers Gallery is situated. I'm very grateful to be able to live, work, and play here, and of course, share artwork with all of you by great local artists such as Troy. So Troy is a digital artist who focuses primarily on illustration and portraiture. This is a very exciting day for both of us because this exhibition has actually been a long time coming. In fact, it was originally scheduled for May 2020. But we unfortunately had to postpone the exhibition due to COVID-19. Happily, we now have the exhibition installed at the gallery. And I will mention that we had scheduled the exhibition for May 2020 because it would overlap an important week, National Accessibility Week, and we really wanted this exhibition to take place in conjunction with those national and international events in celebrating the value and contributions of persons with disabilities. But gladly, today, the opening of the exhibition also happens to be a very important day. So December 3rd is the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. This is a United Nations sanctioned day. So this day promotes the rights and well-being of persons with disabilities and in all spheres of society. And it is to promote the inclusion and awareness of the situation of people with disabilities in all aspects of society, from political, social, economic, and cultural life. So it's a really important day, and I'm super excited that we get to open the exhibition in conjunction with that. So tonight we're going to share some installation images with you, since we can't be gathering in person tonight. We'll also be talking through those images together. Troy and I will share some key aspects of the exhibition, and he'll provide some insight into his work. And we will leave a little bit of time for questions. So we'll try to squeeze in a few of them near the end. So please type your questions into the Facebook chat. All right, I would like to turn the table over to Troy to provide you with a brief introduction. Troy.
Hello, everyone. Over the last few years, people with disabilities have made progress. Accessibility and inclusion programs are making us more visible, and there is a push for equality and a recognition of our work in Canada. That is why I started this project. I felt seen and had something to contribute. With that newfound confidence, I wanted to recognize those who supported me. From people who just took the time to say hi and chat, to others who supported, encouraged, and mentored me. This exhibit is not just 12 portraits. It also represents my love of art and illustration. People look at a piece of art, sometimes don't understand the process of creation, going from the rough sketch that is barely a squiggle and transforming it into something beautiful, all made with thousands of small strokes by a digital pen that forms a finished portrait. This exhibit is a positive creation of a person with a disability who wants to be seen like everyone else, to show people with disabilities have worth. If you take the time to look and not assume that we are less than because of a limitation we may have. Okay.
Thank you so much, Troy, for sharing those words. Together, Troy and I will share some installation shots with you to give you a preview of what you can see in person when you drop by Two Rivers Gallery. So I will just share my screen. All right. So this is the first wall in the Rustad Galleria upon when you enter the space. So, Troy, would you be able to share a bit about what inspired you to create this body of work? The body of work includes portraits as well as some video of the process of creating these portraits. So what inspired you to create them in the first place? Where does this body of work come from?
Well, um, there used to be a streaming service called Mixer, which was shut down. But it was a place that was safe for people with disabilities to go, that you didn't really have to worry about the internet trolls, and that the people streaming there um, made a place that you were safe. And the two portraits you see on the screen now, one is his screen name was Kazi, and he was a fellow artist. And every week we would take time and just draw together with everybody else that came to his stream. And the other portrait is of Tara Volker. She is a project manager at Xbox for accessibility, and she is, I would say, my mentor for my accessibility journey to help get the word out and create a more accessible art space. I'm concentrating on art because that is my main focus. Tara, um, working at Xbox, is about accessibility in games and trying to make a space where people can, with disabilities, can play the games everybody else plays.
So the people that you're depicting in these portraits, of which there are 12, by the way, they're people who have inspired you or encouraged you along your journey as an artist, as a person. Um, so who else will we see along this exhibition tour?
Well, we have um, my closest, like my, we have portraits of my mom Olive, my brother Dean, and my friend Barkley. They were the nucleus of the group that supported me when I first got sick with my psoriatic arthritis. Because I thought at that time I could barely leave the house, but they were always there to support me. And when I first moved to Prince George, and I came to the gallery, there's a portrait of Kathleen who welcomed me, who would always come and say hi and ask me how I was doing and what I was drawing during Maker's Lab every Thursday. There's also a portrait of Kathleen. She used to be the managing director, I think it was, at the Tourist Gallery, and she was always an ally. Um, when there was something she thought that would be a good fit for me, she always let me know. And to have a person like that helping you was really important. When I first moved to Prince George, I was having a hard time. I was moved away from my friends and I was alone. And the gallery became a place where I felt safe and I could create. Excuse
So there's
me.
lots of. Sorry, go ahead.
And then we have portraits of Rick Hansen. Um, Everybody knows who Rick Hansen is. He's a legend in Canada, but he's working towards accessibility for people with disabilities, so we can be part of Canadian society and not left outside it. And then you've even got people from YouTube that just made videos I really like, who also had disabilities, and they inspired me.
So there's quite a range of people that you have depicted in this exhibition, which is great. And here's a close-up of those portraits on that first wall. And you'll notice that beside the portraits, there are these little yellow squares. And these are in conjunction with every portrait in the exhibition. So Troy, would you like to explain what these are and why they're important to include?
Sure. I wanted my art to be accessible as possible, but I'm still learning how to do that in a way that welcomes everyone. We have added QR codes that, when scanned with a smartphone, have an audio description of each portrait, as well as a text transcript of the description for screen readers. For patrons that are deaf, blind, or have visual impairments, I want to apologize today that we don't have closed captioning. We will have that on the video on demand. Also, some of the portraits are hung at different levels to provide viewing access for people, different levels of viewing. Sorry, I had it written down and I mixed it all up. And I think we'll see that later.
Yeah, that's right. So, of course, something that we're trying to do with this exhibition is think about accessibility a lot and what it means to come to an art gallery and look at art, and that includes how high the artwork's hung, so we'll dive into that a little bit more later. So here's another view of the gallery, and you get to see these monitors. So there's 3 monitors in the exhibition. Here you see 2 of them. And these monitors are hung either across from or beside the portrait that they correspond to. So this is a portrait of Rick Hansen hung across from a monitor that shows the process of creating this work. So Troy, these videos, why were they important for you to include? And how long are they? And also, how long does it take you to create one of these portraits?
Well, starting with how long it takes me to make a portrait, that as my skill has increased, that time has come down. So it's about 8 to 10 hours for a portrait, depending on how complex, say, the hair is or the clothes are. The more complexity of like the material of a shirt or something, it takes me longer. Each video is about 20 minutes, and I wanted to show the process that I went through creating each of these 3 portraits. I usually record the process of all my portraits and then just save them for later. If I want to make a video, I can. Each video is about 20 minutes long, so I sped them up to about 10 to 12 times. So it goes quite quickly, but you can still see my process, how I put down the lines. The process I used is similar to sculpting. I will add and then remove black. Like I'll put down a block of black, and then I'll erase it to create the texture of the hair, or if there's texture in clothing. And like I don't use a lot of different pens. I use what's called a G pen nib when I'm drawing, and it's all drawn on a tablet. And these, I just wanted people. I love watching the process of creating art. I'll sit on YouTube and watch other artists create and learn from them. And that's what I wanted people to see how I created.
And the videos are really, really engaging to watch. And it's fun to look back and forth between the video and the portraits. So moving on down the Galleria rather, you'll see more collections of portraits, the other monitors, and also you'll become more aware of the fact, as Troy mentioned, a lot of the artwork is hung lower or at different heights. So I'll just take some time to explain a little bit that normally artwork is hung at 56 inches to center. So that means that normally this portrait of Olive that we're looking at would be hung at about 68 inches high. So that's where the top of it would sit. In this case, the portrait's height, the top of the portrait, is at 56 inches exactly. So that's a whole foot lower than normal. Similarly, this plinth, it's about 30 inches high. So this setup is made to be more accessible for someone who's shorter, someone who might be in a wheelchair, even for children. often we hang artwork for adults who are average height. So this exhibition, as I mentioned, plays with that. And so this particular portrait is hung lower at 56, but there's others that are sort of a middle range, and there's others yet that are a little bit higher, but still 2 inches lower than normal. So if you come to the exhibition space, you'll get to experience a variety of heights, plinths and artworks on the wall. And hopefully that will make you think about how other people experience exhibits when they're not necessarily hung for them. So I have to really thank Troy for getting me to think really critically about this process and try some experimental things here in hanging this artwork. So I'm glad for that. So this is another portrait that Troy created, and it also has a video associated with it. Here it is. And I just wanted to ask Troy, you mentioned why you created the videos and a bit about your process, but I'm just wondering what you hope people take away from watching these videos and what they might be able to learn about digital art.
I want them to see, I've said this before, that digital art isn't created by technology, it's created by artists using technology. I wanted them to see that I'm putting the pen strokes on the digital paper. It isn't me clicking a button and the computer takes the reference and makes a picture out of it. It's me sitting at my desk for 10 to 12 hours, working and reworking the art until it's to a point that I'm satisfied with it. And again, like I said, I love watching people create art. I can just sit there for hours and watch the process of other artists. And I hope people take the time to watch my process because it can be quite mesmerizing sometimes when you're watching somebody create.
I totally agree with that, Troy. Speaking of mesmerizing, you put a lot of detail into your portraits. So when you come to the gallery, it's definitely an exhibition you want to spend a little bit of time with because Troy pays really special attention to creating texture in his work. So this is the last major wall of portraits, and we're going to dive into one of them a bit closer. So you can really see what I mean when I talk about Troy's attention to detail and creating texture. So take it away, Troy.
This is a portrait of one of my instructors at the College of Galleria, Kim Gillian Stewart, and she's wearing a Métis sash. When I asked her if I could do her portrait, I asked her to wear something with a lot of texture, and this was her Métis sash. And you'll see I leave the face a lot of white in the face because I want your eye to have somewhere to rest. And I always love putting the detail in the hair or the clothes. So you can see all the strands in her hair and then all the little strings on her sash because and especially the braids. And then I used different shades of grays and blacks to create depth. But I love detail, and I love to put as much detail as I can in each picture, because then I can sit there and stare at these pictures for just I lose track of time just looking at all the detail going around the picture and just seeing what's there.
Thanks, Troy. Yeah, they really are really amazing to look at.
And yeah, you can't see the detail from the photos because they're just too small. You really have to come down to the gallery to explore these pictures and see all the different details that I put into it.
That's totally right. I 100% agree. That takes us to the end of the installation shots. Here you can see, looking down the Galleria, or more or less full view of what you can expect when you come to the exhibition, and which I hope you do. So before we proceed, I was just wondering, Troy, if you would like to say what you hope people take away from the exhibition overall.
I just want people, I'm a person with a disability. I have worth, and I want people to see that a lot of times in Canada, especially now with the pandemic, people with disabilities have become invisible to everybody because everybody's just, they're panicked and they have a right to be. There's a lot of bad things happening, but we're still here and we want to be part of Canadian society. And this work is of somebody with a disability, and we have worth, and I want people to see that.
Really well said. Thanks so much, Troy. All right. We've gotten a lot of love in the comments on the Facebook chat, or messages rather, comments. Thank you so much for engaging with us, everyone. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Troy?
I'd just like to thank you, Megan, and everybody at the Two Rivers Gallery for working to make this exhibit a success, as well as what we did with Accessibility Week. That I had so much fun doing that in June. I would also like to thank the Canadian Council of the Arts for their support and the grant they provided me during the pandemic. That support took a lot of weight off my shoulders. And finally, I'd like to thank my mom. She's always been there to support me, even when I was at my sickest. And she deserves recognition. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Troy. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor working with you on this project for many months, which has been great. But I'm very glad to see it installed now. And I really look forward to sharing it with the public over these next few months when it's up. Speaking of which, this exhibition is on until January 17th, 2021. So lots of time to drop by and check it out. And stay tuned for more online programming with Troy Lindstrom during the course of this exhibition run. And once again, we will be adding closed captions to this talk, so please stay tuned for that. All right, thank you very much, everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you.